This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. Yo, this is episode 23. I've been at this for a minute. I don't know if I'm getting good at it or what, but yeah, it's episode 23. So I've done 22 of those, and this is number 23. So look, I'm going to jump right in because there have been here comes the SAT word. There have been a plethora of things going on within the past week to a month. Y'all thought I was done with the SAT words just because you don't have to take the SAT no more to get into college. I'm never going to stop using SAT words. But yeah, let me get into it because there's been a lot of stuff going on. Let me start first with the issues that happened in a youth sports tournament in Dallas. It was called the Heart of Texas tournament. So this is I don't want to say a ploy. This is me calling out the event directors for not just tournaments across the country, but leagues. Man, y'all got to do better. And here's what I mean. You need to provide security. You guys are charging, not everybody. Some still, charge sensible amount. We understand that it's a business. You're going to capitalize off your product or service. So there is no hating or anything on that. You charge what you charge, right? Now, personally, I think if you're going to charge an insane amount of money to get in a game for one day or for a weekend, you maybe should be posting those prices at an earlier time. Now, obviously, if you do that, that means that some parents will decide not to go because they're not paying that. So, you charge something reasonable. And you got expenses and stuff. I get it. Because I've posted events and stuff as well. So I know, what the cost usually is and how you take care of some of those costs with charging stuff out the door. But if you're going to charge that much that you're charging, you should provide security. Now, when I say security, I don't mean the security guards. I respect what they do. They have a job to do. But the problem is there are a lot of people out there that don't view security guards as what they are. They call them rent-a-cops, and it's not a good term, but that's what they're referred to. I've never referred to them as that. I like I say, I do have respect for them, but there are a lot that don't. I feel like you need to have actual law enforcement, people who can slap them damn cuffs on you and haul your ass to jail, that can give you a ticket. Imagine if you're playing in a tournament in Texas, but you're coming all the way down from Chicago, and you act a fool, and then you get a ticket, or you're in jail, you get arrested. Yo, that's gonna mess up your day and stuff, because now once you get out, you got to come back. You got to travel back and forth. Now they might have ways to make it easier, but if judges start to enforce things a little bit more, put some different things in legislation, penal codes and stuff for this kind of things, they're going to actually make it a little bit harder to where it's not just like a parking ticket. Now you have to come down, take time out, spend money, all because you couldn't conduct yourself the way you should conduct yourself. You're not out there at church acting a fool. When you go to church, you ain't talking about Sister Barry on the first row. You ain't doing that kind of stuff at certain events. So you should conduct yourself accordingly. Now, speaking from experience, you have to make sure if you get a ticket that you take care of it, because I had that incident where I got a ticket in Dallas, and for the life of me, it kind of became out of sight, out of mind. Didn't receive anything, but they sent it home, and I'm in El Paso, and this was in Dallas, and then next thing you know, my old man got pulled over, and they gave him the riot act. he was not happy, and I felt that presence. I was worried, thinking he was going to catch a flight up here to El Paso and come whoop my ass. But I told him I apologized. I said, "Pops, I'll take care of it," and I did. I took care of it right then and there. But imagine having a warrant out for you or somebody else, and it just snowballs. So could that be an extreme case? Probably. But here's what I'll say. You do have to provide police protection for events, because I've mentioned this so many episodes ago. I'd have to look back to see which episode it was, but I've talked about this thing is getting worse. People are getting assaulted. People are being shot. There have been unfortunate incidents where people have been killed, and doesn't seem to stop this train of we're going to put on events and just hope everybody acts the way they're supposed to. It's not doing that. So we need to make sure that if you're doing an event, now a showcase, things that I've done, I've been a part of, showcases and camps, you don't have that kind of stuff going on, because it's about competition, but you're not taking any scores when you play games. They're playing, they're being evaluated and stuff. Whenever you put the score up and you win and you advance, you get to play in the championship, that's when a lot of this stuff comes out. So I think any event that's taking place, if they don't have a police presence, somebody that's paid to be there for the whole, duration of the event, that can arrest and call backup and get some unruly person out, I think twice about going. And I guarantee you, if these events and leagues start, their numbers and their pockets start to suffer because people aren't coming to them, they'll get in line and do it, or they'll go out of business. That's kind of how it works, right? So I really think they need to take the time to make sure that the customers are taken care of, because you don't want to go somewhere and you have to worry about it. Now, the incident that happened in the heart of Texas is a girls' tournament, big event in Dallas. I believe it's actually in Mansfield. It was so huge that they had Mansfield, the gyms in the Mansfield area, and they used AT&T Dallas Cowboys stadium as well. Okay, so and I'm getting this information from a coach who was actually there at the place where the incident took place. A parent and a coach, a parent from one team and a coach from another team, I guess, had words, and they were kicked out. Okay, so they were kicked out, but when they were kicked out, they were out in the parking lot, and I guess it escalated, and somebody got a firearm. And now there was conflicting stories as to if somebody shot at someone or if they didn't. But needless to say, it sent, people into a fray that ran back into the facility where games were going on, and it was pandemonium. There's video out there. It was crazy. And you heard people saying active shooter, right? Now, that's different than what was actually going on. But nobody knows that. But I'm not to excuse one or the other. But, if it's an active shooter, they're coming in to try to just take, as many people down as they want. This was a disagreement between two people. Now, could it have escalated with that person chasing that person in and shooting at that person and hitting innocent people? Absolutely. This is why you need to have a police presence in there. So these people could have probably been ticketed, or if they were really out of pocket, they needed to be arrested. Okay, out of pocket is my TAS word. All right, so this kind of stuff needs to stop, and that's the first step. Having a police presence, an actual police presence at any event. Okay, next step needs to go down to a code of conduct. You need to have for all coaches, all players, and all parents. And it needs to be such to where it's not just some, rinky-dink offense. If a parent comes down on the court, that should be an automatic ejection. There should never be a parent coming down on the court. If a player is injured, a parent shouldn't come down to the court unless staff is waving for them to come down. Now I get it. We worry about our kids, but we put those kids in there. So we need to trust whatever's going on and deal with it as such. Now, if nobody's tending to that kid, I can get a parent running down to make sure their child is okay. But I've never seen a situation where child gets injured and they just keep playing and going around while the child is injured. They referees always stop the play when one sees it to make sure everybody's safe. Okay, so people coming on the court, they need to be automatically injected. And hell, take it a step further, like the FAA is doing, and what our airline companies are doing. They're creating a national no-fly list. You act up on these planes, you're going to be blacklisted, so you can't fly any flight. You know, maybe you do that with these leagues. Maybe you do that with that team. Maybe if because of that parent, that team is kicked out of that tournament. Okay? Now, if you do that, now maybe those coaches and those other parents on that team who know that they got a parent. You know, if you're on the team, you know what parent is out of control, who's always talking, and you just kind of cool and you just kind of deal with it. Maybe now they step up and say, hey, man, I didn't pay too much money and I didn't drove, 500-600 miles to get over here and then get kicked out. No, you need to chill. Okay, or you need to stay home. We'll take your kid or something like that. If it's the coach, same thing. Because once you start calculating the cost that it takes to just either fly or drive, hotel, food, and tournament fees, that's a lot of money. That shit adds up. And then if the word gets around that your team is a problem team because you have stuff, then maybe these event and league directors don't allow your teams in. At some point, something to get through. Now, I don't have a league, and I don't have these problems in my facility because I nip all of that in the bud. Number one, I don't have to train your said child. But number two, and I'll say this, and it's probably going to come across shitty and arrogant, and it's kind of the way it is. I'm the alpha. I am the alpha. So doing the assessments, doing the first workout, I nip any of that stuff in the bud and let parents know you brought your child to us. You recognize that your child needed help for whatever reason. So sit down and chill and watch what we do. If you don't like what we do, maybe you have an issue with paying. I don't have no problem with saying, okay, if it was that big of a deal, that's fine. You go somewhere else. But you're not going to come in there and be rattled and riled up. No, you're going to be educated because you're going to be told that when you're doing those type of things, there are consequences. And that's what we need to start doing, is having people deal with consequences. There are no consequences at these leagues. People are going crazy. They're doing all kinds of idiotic things. Referees don't want to ref. Power's been taken off of referees. Now, there are some bad refs out there that don't know what they're doing and they need to be weeded out. But majority of these refs, they're making calls. There's one league, I think it's in New Jersey. Now they're instituting that if a parent is out there being belligerent and talking crazy, that parent's going to have to ref 3 games now. Because you need to see how it feels to be up there when you're making these calls, doing the best you can. Again, there are some that are lazy and they need to be weeded out. You need to have quality people that are calling games, that know what they're doing. And even on the highest level, they're making mistakes. Just like we make mistakes in our daily life, they're making mistakes. So, it's not like referees are coming and saying, man, I'm going to make sure this team loses. Okay, can it happen? Maybe if there's an extra grind, but 99% of the time that's not happening. So relax and enjoy the game. If there needs to be a system in place, if there are a referee that is acting up, that's just having complaints game after game after game, that ref needs to be gone because the integrity is being messed up. But for the most part, these refs are spending their time they're getting paid. They're been deemed qualified. They should be if they went through some type of association or training. So they should be knowing what they're doing. It needs to be cleaned up because it's coming. It's already here, actually. It's just coming more. Y'all need to start putting in better rules and making sure that these people abide by them. Because when I do mine, it's going to happen at some point. Trust me. There are things already in the works. When it happens, I'm cleaning all my shit up. Have you ever seen Wyatt Earp? Wyatt Earp, there's two Wyatt Earp movies. I love both of them. Tombstone, one of the best Western movies ever made. And then there's Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. Now, Kevin Costner's character comes into town to clean it up. Comes in, he's running things, and then all of a sudden, they start complaining about how hard and heavy-handed he is with stuff. So he leaves. Like, man, I don't need this. He leaves. Right? While he's gone, the people were complaining that he was too heavy-handed were a little bit more lax and a little bit more friendly. And one of them got killed because of it. So guess what? They call Wyatt Earp. Kevin Costner is like, man, we need you to come back. Such and such got killed. He walked in. He came back with his boys. Walked into that saloon. Had that double barrel shotgun. Boom. Told him his name. Said it all ends now. You have to have law and order. Obviously, you can't be just so strict that it's not a fun experience, but you have to make sure that rules are being followed. If there were no rules, it would be chaos. Imagine if there were no traffic lights or stop signs. I bet you everybody would stop. Everybody would stop at a four-way cross if there was no stop sign or no traffic light. Think about when the power goes out and there's a four-way traffic light and it's out. You don't see people speeding through there then. They might try to stop and then try to go right when another car goes behind them, but you don't see people speeding through. Why? Because they know the consequences. If I speed through, I'm probably going to get T-boned. Rules are in place for a reason. We need to have good, sound rules and start to penalize people. Penalize these parents who are acting crazy, who are trying to sit there, thinking that their kid is the next NBA prospect, so they got to act a fool. Y'all need to understand, coaches don't want that. Coaches don't want that. They want kids that they can coach. And if you didn't know, college coaches are recruiting kids and they're looking into social media. They're looking at all that stuff. If a college coach is at a game and they see a parent acting crazy like that, they might not recruit that kid because of that parent. And it's sad because that kid could be the total opposite of what that parent is. Right? So you're endangering a lot. So y'all need to get a grip. Really need to grip and figure it out. So we're going to move on. And we're going to move on to the next thing. The NBA playoffs. Man, it is so much drama in the NBA playoffs right now that you wouldn't believe what's going on. It is so much. You got things going on with the worst team that could ever get in the this is my opinion. The worst team that could ever get in the playoffs, Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I say that because I've been saying for the past 2 years, they play some of the most head-scratching, low IQ basketball. And it's always a situation where it's like, man, they're going to lose this game. They're so talented, but they don't in spurts. And if, look, I can sit down and watch film and ask them, look, some of this stuff is scheme made, which blows my mind. But you have a guy in Rudy Gobert who was a year or two ago Defensive Player of the Year. He's supposed to be a defensive presence. Why are you having him guard other people? I know you're running pick and roll. Make that guy get through there. Make that guy go over there and keep him. And you keep him on on Joker. Joker's supposed to be the man. Yo, let me see if I can hold him down. If I just guard him and y'all stay in y'all man, I don't need no help. If he beats me and he gets to the basket and he scores 40 points, okay, he's going to score 40 points. But the rest of the team is not going to have any type of rhythm because they're not getting the shots they're used to. So this help defense is good when it comes to certain situations, but when you surround a team when you surround a great player with guys who can just shoot, spot up shooting, and you're helping a guy who's supposed to be great defensively, that doesn't compute to me. Phil Jackson, other coaches, will basically tell that great player, hey, you're going to have to score. We're taking all that stuff away. I didn't see it. And then I see a lot of weird things fouling wise, no discipline on D, bad passes with them. So they're going to have to make some changes because they're at home gone fishing. Okay. You have Memphis and the Lakers, which I felt, Memphis was probably going to be in trouble to lose this series because the Lakers have really started to hit the stride. And now through an unfortunate incident with Ja getting hurt, the Lakers were able to go up 2-1. Ja comes back. They still lose, so Lakers are up 3-1. Now, me personally, I get that Ja is a great player, but Memphis just blew the Lakers out in Game 2. Why not let Memphis play without Ja in Game 3, give Ja a little bit more time to rest? And now, hey, if they lose, they still got it. They can load up and take the fight and win Game 4. But by bringing Ja back, that little chemistry. Look, Memphis plays two types of ways. They play one way with Ja, and they play another way without him. Now, when you are in a playoff series, you're loading up against a certain type of way they're playing. When that team doesn't have that person, it can kind of throw a short-term confusion as to who you wrap around defensively and what you do. Memphis moves the ball more freely when Ja's not there, right? So it's a little bit harder to pinpoint who you're going to take away, right? Now, that's not to say that Game 3 they wouldn't have adjusted because that's what you do in the playoffs. But it's still a little bit harder when you don't know which guy you're going to go after. Okay, so that's just my opinion on it. I felt that they should have waited on Ja to come for Game 4, but Ja wanted to play in Game 3. Was it? No, he missed Game 3. He played in Game 4, and they lost. Damn, I'm confused. I'm trying. I'll get back to that. But in any case, I'm gonna move on to the best series in the playoffs. And that's the what was it, Sacramento and Golden State. And with those, it's been an incredible series to the point that you gotta tip your hat off to both teams. They are really going at it. It's entertaining. You have these guys playing at such a high level. You had the Draymond incident where Draymond. And I always try to figure out how he's going to try to say, what he did, if it was good or bad. And he just basically was like, nah, I did it. No big deal. Well, not that it wasn't a big deal, but he just was glossing over what he did with stomping on Sabonis. But in any case, they were it's been an incredible series. I want to say it was the most watched series. I think it had 10 million viewers on Game 1, 2, or 3 or something like that. So everybody's tuned into that series and watching how good it's going. So it's very competitive. It's very competitive with these series. I said, and I've heard a lot of other people say, it's not a true the 1-8 matchup. Yeah, it's true because Minnesota's just. I say it because I see so much potential in Minnesota, and I get frustrated because I look at it. It's like, man, they match up well. They should be able to put a lot of pressure and at least take them 6 or 7 because they're really talented. So that's why I get frustrated with them. But in the 2-7 and the 3-6 matchup, it was something else. Then you have the Suns and Clippers, but that takes all of the momentum out because they weren't able to play Kawhi or Paul George. So that series was, to me, it was pretty much decided. You just didn't know how many. Clippers played hard, but you realized that Phoenix was going to end up winning that series, which is what they did. Okay, so back to Ja. Ja didn't play game 2, but he played. He played part of game 2. He didn't play game 3. He didn't play game 3. And he played game 4, right? So he missed one full game. I want to say game 1 they lost, and either he got hurt in game 1 or game 2. I'm trying to find the stats as I'm looking at this. So I'll keep going on. Next thing I want to talk about is coaches. What kids have to understand is coaches have a type. And what I mean by that is coaches have a type of player that, that they're recruiting or a certain type of player that they want to play, right? So you have to understand that when you're going to a school, I hate to say it, if you're not you're that coach's type of player, it's going to be hard for you to be successful, get minutes and all of those things because you're not that type of player. So you got to understand that even in the high school level, hell, even in City League and AAU, it's not as common, but in high school there are coaches who have a type. It's not good or bad. It's a little bit harder because of the fact that if you're in a high school, you have to kind of go to that school. But it's almost like, I saw somebody on Twitter say they need to have the transfer portal in high school because players, are playing at schools where these coaches have a certain style and a certain type of player. And if those players aren't that type, they don't see the floor. And it's unfortunate because, some kids can play. They just need an opportunity to. But everybody has a type of player, a style of player that they're looking for. So you really need to look into that and understand it when you're looking to play somewhere. All right, so let me move on to my basketball training ideology. Here's my basketball training ideology subject today. We're going to talk about how do we help low IQ basketball players. Now, what does a low IQ basketball player mean? Basically, it's just a person who hasn't played much or they struggle in game situations. They're playing, but they're struggling in game situations, typically because they haven't had enough reps or guidance to understand what to do in a situation and what not to do. Now, this goes to something that we do a lot of, which is player development. So, typically in the training, we try to do skill development and we try to do player development. And the reason we do them is because, the how do I put it? The reason we do this is because you have to make sure kids know how to dribble, pass, and shoot. But then you also have to help them understand that what the things that you work on in dribble, pass, and shoot and defense, how it applies to actual game. So you have to play in games. And I'll give you an example. A couple of the most common things we face are kids who are, they're scared when they get the ball, right? And they're scared because they don't know what to do in that situation. Man, maybe they run a play, but they don't know what to do in that situation. So we have to show them, offensively and defensively, this is what's going on. And when you get the ball, these are the things that you can do. Now, do these things. You have options. Do these things, and don't worry about whether it's successful or unsuccessful at the beginning, because you're trying to give them confidence to really just be a little bit more aggressive. Okay. On the other side, a lot of times kids get trapped. And the reason kids get trapped is because they're not understanding how to understand the way that trap is working. And then they don't know what to do in that situation. So we have to work with them on those as such. You do those enough times, and then you allow those kids to experience that and work their way through it and practice, preferably practice, not in games, but preferably practice. Those kids have a sense of what to do. Will they become, these amazing basketball players? Who knows? It depends on how they take to it. But giving them the opportunity to go through it enough times, you can find out if those players are going to be good in that situation. Now, if they're not good in that situation, now it becomes a situation where, I've said situation like 3 or 4 times. It becomes necessary to have a talk with that parent and that kid and say, look, when we play teams that press, you can't be in the game because you struggle with the press. And parents and kids have to be okay with that, and they have to say, okay, we got to get better. Can you help them, or where do we go to get them help, right? But low IQ sounds bad. I say low IQ plays. I try not to say a low IQ player, but I will tell you, if I've seen a said player do the same type of low IQ things over and over and over, it's probably a low IQ player, right? But you want to try to help them out with those things. But some players are just like, man, I don't care. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I don't care about all that stuff. Real talk. There are players out there that just figure they can get over, or they don't care to be really good or whatever. They just do what they do. So we help them by doing as such. If it's offensive play, we try to go through their offensive play, show them how the defense is going to move, whether it's a man or a zone. Now, obviously, if some teams trap, we have to kind of go through that, but we give them the basics because some teams play different zones differently and they trap differently. But we try to cover it and tell them, look, if this and happens, this is what you need to do. Okay, so that's how we help what we call low IQ kids get better. A lot of it has to come from them, getting a chance to struggle in games. It's very important. Very important. Okay, next I'm going to talk about what I call a transition attack move. Okay, what's the difference between a transition attack move and a secondary pocket attack moves? Okay, now I'm doing things that I always laugh about other people doing, where they give you all of these different names and situations and stuff like that. I'm doing it now. And the reason I say it is because there are so many different names for different, moves or defenses or terms that it'll make your head spin. Let me just try to simplify it. Here's what I'm talking about with a transition move. Basically, if you're coming up the court on a fast break, you get an outlet move. The way you attack that defender is one way. Okay, you attack that defender because you're using speed, and you're also using the 3-point line as a means to kind of keep that defender off. How do you say it? You kind of keep them off balance because they don't know if you're going to shoot. So that's when hesitations, quick in and outs, quick crossovers, simple things can come into play. Blow by moves to get by that defender to the basket, or if they, move back, then you pull up jump shot. When I talk about secondary or pocket attack move, what I'm talking about is if you're in a pick and roll, or if you're running your play and you catch the ball on the wing and defender closes out, and you give them a little pump fake or you just blow by them with a quick, sweep. You take a dribble. Now you have that secondary to defender coming. So that attack move is slightly different because you have more people that you have to think about defensively. In that transition move, it's probably just that defender. There might be a second defender coming into play, but you have enough time as you're dribbling up court to see the floor if you're aware of everything. You have good court awareness. But in a half court setting, everybody's on there. So you have to understand where that secondary defender is going to come from. What's the likelihood that they're going to come from the strong side? If they're going to be coming from the block coming up, or if they're going to be coming up from the top, or if they're going to be coming from the other side. Those are things that you have to factor in when you're making that move. And now that move has to be really simple because it's a quicker clock in your head to make that decision. It's also a quicker clock in the transition, but it's quicker in a different way because you want to make the correct move so you can get to the basket easy. With this one, you need to make the correct move to make sure you can get the shot that you want, okay, in that pocket because people are closing in on you. So we want to make sure that we are understanding what a transition attack move is and what a secondary pocket attack move is. When I say pocket, I'm just talking about an area of space. You run over a screen and roll. You use a screen as you're coming over to attack. You can usually draw a circle. You can create a circle or a pocket of space between where the defenders are and where you are. It's you can literally do it. I can show you on a telestrator, right? Some pockets are bigger. Some are smaller. Some are weirdly shaped in a sense where you're getting that shot off. So it's something to really think about because, I don't think enough players think about you can't attack a pocket attack move in a half-court setting the same way you attack in the transition. It doesn't work that way because you're going really fast in transition, right? You can't attack transition the same way you attack pocket because you're going a little bit slower and you're allowing people to catch up because people are running full speed. So I hope that helps. If you have questions and you need me to maybe try to illustrate it with video and stuff, yeah, I can do that. I'm getting better in this technological age of social media and pulling clips and stuff. I'm really getting good at that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end for today. I will, talk about other things. There were a lot, but I couldn't get to everything, which is why I'll have another episode next week. But let me get to my bonus content. Okay, on my Patreon version, I'm going to talk about kids getting burned out. I'm going to talk about talking on defense. I'm also going to talk about the difference between training and workouts. I believe I've covered it once before, but I'm often asked, and I'm kind of asked in different ways, so I'm going to kind of go through it again. And then I'm going to talk about competing or not to compete, okay? You need to stay in tune so you can understand what I'm talking about with that. But I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit more passion on the first, but I just want everybody, I want it to be a situation where we're trying to do, we're doing it for the right reason, and we're going into a situation where we can just feel safe. I mean, it's getting hard out there to where you don't even feel safe going to the store anymore because you're worried about what's going on. We need to do a better job at communicating with each other. If we know people are having a hard time with something, reach out with that person or reach out to try to get that person help. Or, let somebody know, hey, you might need to keep an eye on this person because they don't sound right. We worried about their health, well-being, and possibly the well-being of others around them. I think if we so nosy on social media, commenting on everything, why don't we take that into our community and people that we know to make sure, what's going on. Reach out and see if people are doing okay. All right. But, that's just kind of how I view things. I hopefully somebody listening decides to maybe take that approach. I try to do it on a regular basis. But I'm going to end like I always end. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah, yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports. Okay, that's a